Good morning, students. Hope you're all doing great, safe and sound at home. So, welcome to the online classes on history. I would like to begin with the first chapter since we could not complete in the month of March. So, before getting into the details of Harappan civilization, so let's learn about the basics of civilization, its meaning, its traits, and about Bronze Age civilization, and then let's move to the chapter in detail. So, what is a civilization? The meaning says an advanced stage of human cultural development having superior technology and complex economic relationships is called civilization. In order to understand this definition, one has to learn the emergence, the evolution of a civilization, how a civilization emerged. It seems around 4000 to 3000 BCE, human beings slowly started to master nature. And then he slowly started to settle in a place. Usually he preferred riverbanks because that provided suitable environment for him and his family. As he settled, his number multiplied. He grew in number, a small family turned into a community into a village, town, cities, and so on. Meanwhile, once a hunter and gatherer, he learned to do farming. So, as he grew crops, it seems at one point he grew he grew surplus food, and this was one of the most turning points in civilization, in the emergence of civilization. The reason is the moment he grew surplus food, that freed some people, and these freed men and women, they started to do other occupations. For example, smiths, pottery, carpentry, writing, and so on. And they improvised their own profession and it became hereditary and so on. And meanwhile, they also constructed houses, buildings, public buildings. They developed technology, developed script in order to communicate from one person to another, or one place to another place. And so, as a whole, a new civilization emerged. So, when you see the background, the evolution, we get some traits, and they are the characteristics of a civilization. We already seen this. So to put it into points, the first one is evolution of cities. I said from family, it multiplies into a town forms cities as civilization. Surplus food, division of labor. I said this was the most important turning points. The reason is the reason is the surplus food frees people, and these freed men and women, so they concentrate on other occupation, and that's how division of labor starts. And the fourth trait is a system of writing. Most of the civilization had their own system of writing. Some of them have been deciphered, some of them have not. For example, Harappan civilization's script is not yet deciphered. Public buildings, development of technology. So these are the traits of a civilization. So if you look at the ages of civilization, human civilization, it is divided into three parts. Harappan civilization belongs to Bronze Age civilization. Before Bronze Age civilization, so we have Stone Age. Stone Age divided into three parts. Paleolithic, that is Old Stone Age. Mesolithic, that is Middle, and Neolithic. So what is a Stone Age? Stone Age is nothing but human beings were using stone as tools, as weapons, as their implements. So that's why we call that age as a Stone Age civilization. And then there's a transition period where he knew about metal as well as he was using stone, that is called Chalcolithic. And slowly he started to learn to use metals, accidentally of course, and he didn't know what was using. We call it as a metal. For him it was maybe just a stone. So he started to learn to use metals. So we have Bronze Age and then we have Iron Age. So these are the three ages of civilization. So Harappan civilization belongs to Bronze Age civilization. The reason is because these people knew how to use metals in order to make instruments, tools, or weapons, and so on. It seems the first metal that man ever used was copper. So he made tools, weapons, and implements out of it. And then later, accidentally, he mixed copper with tin and zinc, and that produced bronze. And bronze compared to copper was harder and ductile. There's one more question, two marks question on it. Why he preferred bronze over copper? The reason is, I said, it was harder and ductile. Ductile means you could give any shape to it very easily. So the civilization which used bronze in making tools and weapons and implements are called Bronze Age civilizations. We have four of them. Harappan civilization, which took birth on the banks of river Indus. Mesopotamia, on the banks of river Euphrates and Tigris. Chinese civilization, on the banks of river Huanghe and Yangtze. And Egyptian civilization on the banks of river Nile. So these are called Bronze Age civilization. So all these four, it seems, were contemporary civilization living in the same period. So coming to the Harappan civilization, it seems the discovery of the Harappan civilization one of the most significant events. The reason is, until the discovery, everyone thought that Indian history began with Vedic period, with the Vedas, with Aryans. But this discovery stretched our history to the oldest civilization. Vedic period began somewhere around 2000 BCE. But this discovery stretched back our history to almost 6000 BCE, to the oldest civilization. That's why this discovery is considered as one of the most significant discoveries in human history. So the major discovery was done in around 1921 by our own Indian, Dairam Sahni. He discovered a place called Harappa. Before that, many Britishers like Charles Mason, Alexander Bernays, they already had published articles on the ruins of Harappa, but they were not aware that they were about to discover a oldest civilization. But the significant discovery came around 1921 by Dairam Sahni. So when he discovered a place called Harappa. And the following year, R.D. Banerjee discovered another place, Mohenjo-daro. So that is in 1922. So the reason why Harappan civilization is called so is because the first major discovery, the first major ruins of the civilization were discovered in a place called Harappa. Both are located in Pakistan. That's why it is called Harappan civilization. So together it is called, in general, Indus Valley civilization. Now let's move on to the sources of the civilization. So there are 6 sources that give a lot of information about the Harappan civilization. There are buildings, there are seals, there are sculptures, and so on. So this is very, very important in terms of exam. There's a picture study, ask for 10 marks, or sometimes they also ask just about the sources. So for 10 marks, that's why this part is very, very important in terms of exam. So let's move on. So I said already that apart from the Great Bath, there are buildings, seals, sculptures, pottery, script considered as a source. So Great Bath. So this ruin is considered as one of the important ruins of Harappan civilization. So if you observe them clearly, you'll get almost all the characteristics. It's made up of bricks. So there is a pool. So with laid bricks. So there are 2 steps leading to the pool. And if you observe closely over the pool, so there are some structures. It seems they are all corridors and rooms around. So let's get into the details of the Great Bath. This is very important. First, so this Great Bath was discovered in Mohenjo-daro. So the location is Mohenjo-daro. So this was a rectangular tank surrounded by corridors, porticos, and also rooms. The overall measurement of the Great Bath is 55 by 33 meters, and the tank, the pool, measured 11.8 by 7.1 meter, and the depth of the pool was around 2.4 meters. So there are two flights of steps leading to the tank in the north and south direction. The material used were burnt bricks especially, and apart from it, to keep it watertight, they used mortar, bitumen and gypsum. The water to the pool was supplied by nearby well, but there are no hole or inlet that connects well and the pool. So but we don't know exactly how they provided water. They also believe that maybe rain also provided water to the pool. And the seventh important characteristic is they believe that it was mainly used for religious bath since it was in a public place. Now, as a source, this provides following information. So that was the characteristics. So these are the information that this particular monumental structure gives us. The first one is it indicates high degree of perfection in construction at that time. We are talking something that happened around 4000 to 5000 BCE, when whole human race was still evolving. These already had advanced civilization. That's why so sometimes we wonder, so what kind of men these were. So we have to appreciate. So while looking at the structure, the way they constructed, so when we learn about the town planning drainage system, so we really wonder about their skills and talents. So second, it also points out the presence of ruling class, so who could use labor, collect tax and build such structure, because the reason is this was built in a public place. In order to build a public place, usually there should be somebody who commands. So that's why they assume that there was a ruling class who used labor, maybe collected tax and built such structure. Otherwise it is not possible. So these are the assumptions. Third information, it says that this may be used for religious purpose. Usually it's a tradition that every temple we have a pool. Before getting into the temple, usually we purify ourselves, and the corridors, the rooms and the stains on the walls all indicate that prayer went on the corridors and the rooms, and so it indicates, it tells that maybe this was used for religious purpose. The design shows efficient planning in the structural features, water supply and sewage disposal. The second source is citadel. Citadel means a raised land. Now this was the structure of the whole of structure of the most of the cities of Indus Valley civilization. So there were two parts, the lower and the higher. The higher part, what you are seeing here with few buildings, is called citadel area. The lower part belongs to common men and women, so that's called residential area. So we will see that in detail when we discuss about town planning. So citadel, as I said, means area of a raised area for each city. So it had houses of ruling class, so and important buildings like the Great Bath, the granary, the assembly hall, the workshops and so on. Now these rich men and women, they preferred raised part. The reason is this region was always affected by floods caused by the Indus River and its tributaries. That's why this rich, the powerful, they they chose a safest place, whereas the poor, the weak, they had no option, so they were always seen on the lower part. So as a source, this Citadel area indicates there was elaborate planning that went into development of cities, and it also justified that Harappan civilization was an urban civilization because the presence of granaries, the presence of important buildings like assembly hall, great bath, mini workshop, all indicate urbanization. The presence of specific buildings and houses indicate some sort of social classification. So if you remember the image that I showed just now, so there's a clear demarcation. There's a raised part, few buildings, rich buildings, and then there were smaller blocks of houses and so on. So there was a clear social classification into rich and poor, and there was a wall separating them, and says that so they were socially classified. The third and the most important source that gives lots of information about the Harappan civilization is the seals. So these are the images of seals. So you can see seals, and there's a script over it, writings. So there's a unicorn seal, and there's a Pashupati seal, there's a bull, and various images, various structures you see. So it gives lots of information about the Indus Valley civilization. Until now, about 2000 seals have been discovered, and majority of them show pictures of one-horned bull, one-horned rhinos, bull, buffaloes, tiger, goat, elephant, and so on. So material, so they have used terracotta, steatite, agate, and metal to make seals. So it comes in various shapes: rectangular, square, circular. So as a source, it gives, I said, lots of information. The images on the seals, the writings, of course it is not deciphered, but the pictures, so it provides information about the trade relations. Some of the seals have been discovered in other places, so belonging to Harappan civilization, so that tells maybe trade might have existed between the regions. It also gives information about the script. Unfortunately, it is not deciphered. It provides information on their religious beliefs. For example, Pashupati seal, we'll see about it later, tells that they might have worshipped Lord Shiva. Of course, it is debated. There's a unicorn seal, so it tells about their mythical beliefs. It also tells about their dress code, their food habits, the crops they grew, and various other information it provides. So the image that you're seeing is a seal, and historians call it as a Pashupati. Pashu means animals, Pati means lord, so the lord of the animals. So if you observe the image very closely, we have a person seated cross-legged and surrounded by animals, and so the historians simply call this seal as a Pashupati seal. Very important. And there's a unicorn seal. Unicorn is a mythical animal, and there's a script over it. So Pashupati seal shows three-faced deity wearing a buffalo horn head, seated cross-legged, and he's surrounded by animals such as an elephant, a tiger, there's a buffalo, there's a rhino, and two deers at his feet. So this deity is identified as Pashupati. Some people call him Mahadeva, and some even call him Lord Shiva, but in general it is called simply as Pashupati. The next important image that you are seeing is the fourth source, the bearded man. Okay, this is one of the most significant discovery of Harappan civilization. So this bearded man, the statue of bearded man, was discovered in Mohenjo-daro. So it's a stone structure. This statue has been interpreted in two ways. Some say he is a priest or king. The reason is he is wearing a shawl across his body and he has half closed eyes in a yogic posture. That's why they some call him as priest or king. But some call him as a king. The reason is he has a ribbon on his forehead and he is placed in public place. So the two interpretation I said. So some call him as a priest because half closed eye, beard, and shawl across his body. But some call him king because he has a ribbon over his head. And most importantly, why they call him as ruler or king is because this statue was installed in a public place. So these are the two interpretations regarding the bearded man. The next important source that gives information about the Harrapan civilization is the statue of dancing girl. So this was a bronze statue. So gives a lot of information about them. So they knew metallurgy. So bronze statue, it was found in Mohenjo-daro. It is in Indian Museum, whereas the bearded man and most of other ruins are in Lahore Museum in Pakistan. Again, this dancing girl statue was also found in Mohenjo-daro. So it is the figurine shows vigor, variety, and ingenuity, the skill. So the right arm, if you observe closely, is rested on the hip and the left arm is heavily bangled. So it holds a small bowl against the left leg. So this statue, it shows a dancing pose, and that's why they simply call it as a dancing girl. Now, as a source, this is considered as a masterpiece of art because 4,000 years back, this says that they knew how to make sculpture out of metal. It's not easy, but they knew. So that's why this is very, very important. Another important source is dockyard. This was considered as one of the oldest dockyard in the world and located in Lothal in Gujarat in India. So this is the artistic image of the dockyard. You can see a canal connecting to the dockyard, and that canal it seems connect to Sabarmati River and then to Gulf of Cambay to Arabian Sea. So this mainly tells that they had overseas trade. So this is the dockyard, image of dockyard. The ruins are still present in Lothal. So coming to the structural features, it's a rectangular dockyard. This was discovered in Lothal, Gujarat. So this is surrounded by massive walls for protection against floods. So materials, as usual, baked bricks. So this was connected by a channel to Gulf of Cambay. So Sabarmati River helped to connect to Gulf of Cambay. So over this, they made trade with other countries and other places. So Lothal was an important trading and manufacturing center, and it carried overseas trade. So as a source, this particular structure indicates overseas trade, their skill, development of trade. It also tells about their knowledge of seas and tides. The last source that gives information, or the little information, is the script. So these are the seals, but you also can find the script written or inscribed on the seals. Unfortunately, it is not deciphered. So it is basically pictographic in nature. So they have discovered around 375 to 400 signs. This is mainly found in seals, copper tools, rims of jars, and copper and terracotta tablets, jewelry on signboards, and so on. So however, it is not deciphered However, there was a question over this, what kind of information it provides. So since it is a pictographic, it gives information about other information like religious beliefs, their crops and occupation and so on. In that sense, it is important. Otherwise, it's not that useful because it's not deciphered. The reason is it is very rudimentary. It is still, it was very basic. It was in the basic stages of evolution. That's why so one find it very difficult to interpret or decipher it. So here we stop the first uh, video. So I'll continue with the next two videos and I'll complete the chapter. Thank you.